Okay, welcome everyone to this panel, which is entitled Why Do NFTs Matter, which I think is a great title for a conversation. There will be a chance for a Q&A, 10-15-minute Q&A at the end of our discussion, so please do pitch in. If you've got any thoughts or questions, we'd love to hear from you. I'm going to introduce my panelists. Here I have Misha Hanin. He's the co-founder and CEO of Bedu, one of the most prominent companies in the Middle East working with NFT, Web 3.0 and metaverse technologies. Misha has more than 30 years experience in tech projects, and he is the founder of DeepDive Technology Group, an international enterprise blockchain technology, cloud and cyber security company. It's a bit of a mouthful. Welcome.
Wow.
We have Igneus. We have Igneus Terrenus, who is joining us from Singapore virtually. He's the head of communications at Bybit, which is one of the world's fastest growing cryptocurrency exchanges, and the sponsor of this series of talks. Igneus is a relentless advocate for transformative innovation, and he is a staunch supporter for progressive regulation on the emerging digital asset class. And last but very much not least is Skygolpe. He is one of the leading artists in the NFT space, and we've got some images of his work here. His work has been exhibited worldwide, and his digital editions are sought after by major collectors. His faceless portraits that we can see here are a result of a unique process that combines physical layers with digital elements. So I'm going to start with a quick fire round I want to put to all my panelists, please. And that is, in a few sentences, if you could each give me your definition of an NFT. We'll start with you, Misha, please.
Oh, it's tough to start and be the first to talk. So my definition about NFT, I would simplify it. It's, if I will, it's a key to the new future. It's, and I'm in the blockchain field almost from first days, like back in 2009, we started with the blockchain initiatives, and for the last 10 years, it was a lot of debates of real implication of the blockchain. And from a business side perspective, from technology side perspective, and I'm fascinating to see the real implication and real use case of the blockchain technology, where not technical people enjoying it, real people. And I'm so excited to see that the first real implication that people recognized, it's art. And so I literally, I can talk probably for hours about the future of the NFT and where it's going, but I'm really excited to see that we already have it, and I do believe that NFT is the key for the new future.
Thank you. Sky, what about you?
So when someone who never heard about NFT asked me to try to explain it to them, I think the most effective way that I had yet was, I think that we are trying to redefine the concept of a file and a digital asset. So, you know, these days, when we think to a file, we think to different formats, right? Like, it can be a JPEG, PDF, an MP4. Now, with the NFT, together with this file, we also have a certificate of authenticity with it. So I think this is a very important key point to understand. And the great thing is that now this file, this token, travels on the blockchain. Now, this allows us to trace the origin of this file whenever we need it, the movement of these files, and gives us direct governance to the file.
That's a good answer. Igneus, what's your definition of an NFT?
I think we have an audio, maybe
Are
problem.
you muted, Igneus? No.
Is it getting better now?
There we go.
Yep.
Great. All right, thanks everyone. Yeah, I just like to start by saying that it's such an honor and privilege to address, you know, an audience exudes of intelligence and good taste. To me, I think I agree with what Sky and you know, my fellow both of my fellow panelists said, NFT is hugely important because it is programmable culture. And, it's a piece of culture that we can truly call out ourselves. We have had art for the longest time, but, they decay, they can be taken away, they can be, have a questionable chain of custody. NFT, in a way, it solves the authenticity problem as well as the chain of custody problem and gives people more power into, having a true ownership and having the ability to add coding, add ways to interact, to transact into something that is previously, only put on a pedestal as something to admire at.
So thank you for that, Igneus. So just to sort of backpedal a bit, we've been talking a bit about the blockchain technology, and for people who don't know, I'm sure you do, but NFTs rely on blockchain technology. They're stored on a blockchain, which is essentially a digital ledger of transactions, and the idea is that ledger can't be changed or hacked. So there are clear technological benefits for NFTs to do with, as you've mentioned, authentication and scarcity. Igneus, I don't know if you want to add to that, or perhaps if I could come at it a slightly different way. What are the potential pitfalls for this technology? I mean, there have been reports of fakes and forgeries. I mean, for example, you might find people either selling unauthorized copies of other NFTs or people making NFTs of content which doesn't belong to them. I mean, how do you prevent that?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question in the sense that we are all so accustomed to the idea of there being gatekeepers and there being people who decide what is a forgery or what is an authentic piece. I think what the right-click save as people have taught us is that, maybe in a truly decentralized, permissionless world, no one has the power unilaterally to declare something is not authentic or something is a fake. But what will have staying power is if it's a piece of culture that truly moves people, we still go to a museum to see a genuine piece. Why do we do that? We can see a almost identical copy anywhere else, but we are moved by the idea of being in the same space and breathing the same air perhaps a artist once did. It still gives this kind of a level of sacredness or like a kind of like reach and touch that we cannot get anywhere else. And I don't think just simply by moving that piece of art onto a blockchain will change that. But we do need to get used to the idea that, maybe there's not going to be a centralized power being the gatekeeper deciding what is, permissible and what is not permissible in terms of copying and so-called forgery.
So to a certain extent, I mean, the blockchain is still reliant on a human element, isn't it? It's someone has to input that data or has to decide in the first place what is fake or not. Do you have a sort of a comment on that? I mean, you'll never be able to sort of circumvent the human aspect of deciding what is fake or not.
Yeah, I think a lot of times it's, we're not just buying a piece of art when we buy a piece of art or when we buy, a piece of digital art that is minted as an NFT. We are also buying into a culture. We want to own that piece of culture. We want to own that piece of art that is produced by an artist that we like. We want to be in an exclusive club that we are able to call ourselves to be a supporter and patron of this artist with whom we align aesthetically or value-wise. So I think, it is completely fine for someone to, right-click and save as an NFT. But what truly, gives them the sense of belonging and sense of ownership, and what truly gives them power and knowing that they now truly own a piece of culture that no one can take away, is that they would actually buy that so-called genuine piece and participate in honorable and honest transactions.
Sky, one of the potential pitfalls we discussed prior to this conversation was security issues around NFTs and phishing. Could you just explain to the audience what are some of the security issues, how might that play out, and how do you prevent them?
Yeah, sure. I think with the concept of direct ownership and decentralization, another concept really needs to be at the center, which is responsibility. So, artists generally are people that love to live in their mind and, you know, also try to detach as much as they can from several aspects. So I think that this short circuit really led to some potential for, unfortunately, you know, scammers or bad people to try to, you know, steal things from the artist. So we actually had a couple of situations where, you know, but even here the community played such a good role, because the great thing is that few attempts of several scam schemes were made, but the community, like putting the community together and sharing the information also is helping us right now on prevent this sort of situation where maybe luckily they are, you know, like they just do 1 or 2 damages, but then we can kind of supervise this situation. But in terms of security, I think like the basic that are applicable to every cryptocurrencies, you know, like that are in self-custody, such as never save private keys into the computer. Second is using a physical ledger in terms of having a filter, you know, that can have a second transaction which has to be approved by you. So that's such another huge element. Using a Mac also that can help instead of, and by the way, I'm not sponsored by Mac, but you know, using a Mac also, you know, like for example, in my case, I never used Mac, and I started to use Mac because of this reason, because it works better, because it's a closed circuit, so I can already put some filters, you know. And then, you know, unfortunately, try to really double check, triple check any kind of links, especially if you don't know the source. So it's a sort of a general, it's a general responsibility. And I think that, yes, we all agree that the importance of decentralization, but I think the way that centralization will evolve will be how to make decentralization safer without actually losing the core meaning of it. And I think that's going to be a very interesting challenge for the future.
Do you want to add anything, Misha?
I would add to this just a few words. Actually, like, there is no secret. There's a lot of scam in this domain, right? The domain of blockchain, in the domain of NFT particularly, scam and a lot of attempts to hack and steal things. But the good thing about the ecosystem itself from a technology perspective, that nowadays we have much more even traceabilities, and we like if in real life something gets stolen, it's quite difficult to even track it and bring it back. And we have use cases where we were helping to entities that were victim to scam and things get stolen, to trace it and get it back, right? So the only way to do this is actually technology. And what's crucial in this domain, and it's actually applicable everywhere in our real life, right? It's some sort of education. We need to know, it's new world for us, right? For many of us. We need to learn some principles about the security, about how to identify where it's like real stuff or where it's a fake. Like nowadays, all of us, when we will get to store and we get a bill of 100 dirhams, we really easy can identify it right away, like just by touching it, if it's real or not, right? We need to do some education, and this is what we also do, like we're trying to educate people about some techniques and tools, how to validate if it's particular scam, how to like kind of see it as a scam. And when people adopt those simple principles and fanatically, and I want to emphasize, fanatically follow those principles, there is almost zero risk to be in a domain and operate in a domain. So,
it's like doing your due diligence.
Exactly,
if you were to buy
right?
an artwork, you
Yeah.
adhere to certain things.
Yeah, well, in real life, we are not going to give money away to someone without really identify who is this person, who is this organization. If I'm getting an invoice to be, that should be paid, I validate from where this invoice is coming, right? So on the blockchain side, in the NFT world, it's much easier even to do that. So this is one of the reasons why I do believe that it has much more potential than anything what we had before the NFT world.
So we've discussed some of the technological benefits of NFTs. I'd like to sort of move on to some of the sociological benefits. And something I was hearing during the pandemic, during lockdown, was a lot of artists who were out of work, weren't showing work or selling it, moving into the NFT space and actually, you know, making money and being sort of artists on the breadline, actually
making good money.
Making good money, indeed. And I just wondered if I could ask you, Sky, what your experience was when you first got into the sort of NFT sphere and what you think the sociological benefits of NFTs are.
So I was lucky because I got into NFT quite early, so we're talking about early 2020. And so I could kind of see also the evolution of it, you know. So for me, it was a life-changing experience. So I will never be able to say something bad about NFTs, but you know, like, I think that what really excited me from the very beginning was this sense of possible revolution. And being an artist, the way that NFT tried to bring back the value on the creation rather than the usage of the creation, that was something super inspirational to me. And that's why I basically decided to go all in right away, because it was like I could really see this as a tool of revolution of the society, and especially the relationship that we have today with creators, which in my opinion, with the previous digital economy revolution, you know, like the creatives were kind of serving this revolution, you know? Whereas now, thanks to NFT, I think that the proof of creation, let's call it the proof of creation, plays a major role, and there is the right importance to it. And on a sociological level, I think also this sense of the way that communities can kind of directly interact with the blockchain, so not only interacting, but also sharing the proof of the informations of something. And I think that that's really revolutionary also on a community level.
Misha, would you have anything to add on the sociological benefits?
It's actually, I would say it provocates the creation, because back in the days, and like I just repeating what I hear from artists, right? Mm-hmm. Back in the days when artists want, especially new artists, like young artists, wanted to create an exhibition and go somewhere like and have an exhibition in Dubai or in Tokyo or San France. For many of us, it was not easy. Now with NFT, and especially when NFT can prove that this is the real stuff that started, like it's not a fake, it's like to open exhibition, virtual exhibition, where people from around the globe can see it, despite the fact of the pandemic, despite the fact of the ability not travel at all, okay, suddenly we removed any borders, we removed any restrictions, and we also removed even situations where artists need to get some approvals to even demonstrate something, right? And in combination with the technology, it's absolutely taking entire domain to absolutely different levels. And this is why, like, for example, we're getting like calls and about discussions how to step into this domain like nonstop. Mm-hmm. People realizing this, despite the fact even that there is another vehicle to of monetization. Forget about this. This is the second piece. A lot of artists, they just they see this as a stage to demonstrate their art and get known. And it's like suddenly we see a lot of art and a lot of artists that were unknown just 2 years ago. And today they're one of the most popular on earth, right? Mm-hmm. So thanks to NFT.
Sure, and we'll come to a question later about how, you know, who will survive this sort of seeming boom. But going back to the community building point, I just wanted to bring in the DAO subject again. And for those who weren't in the previous discussion, a DAO is a decentralized autonomous organization, which essentially controlled by the organisation's members, so that it's not influenced by a central government or body. And they are springing up, it seems, all the time at the moment. I mean, we had Ukraine DAO, which has raised more than 4 million for the war in Ukraine. Unicorn DAO, which is investing in NFTs by women and LGBTQ artists. They're also becoming a sort of an increasingly popular way to raise funds and to jointly acquire digital assets. Maybe Igneus, if I could put the question to you, do you think DAOs are the future? What's your take on them?
Yeah, I'm hugely excited by the prospects of what DAOs can do. And interestingly, one of the world's largest DAO, actually like by treasury size, it's the second largest DAO in the world, BitDAO, was the brainchild of several of us at Bybit. So BitDAO was established in July last year. It had initial partners such as Peter Thiel, Founders Fund, Pantera, raised hundreds of millions of funds. And it now has a treasury size just shy of 2 billion and has already allocated $633 million to all sorts of interesting things in the Web3 and in the metaverse world. So that included a $400 million contribution to a gaming collective called Gamer, spelled like Game 7. That's with the gaming company Forte to build a blockchain game. And then another 33 million to 8 students, blockchain societies in some of the world's most prestigious higher education institutions, including Harvard and MIT. And another $200 million toward ZK DAO, which is to develop a scalable solution for Ethereum blockchain. And, you know, DAO is also buying and purchasing art. One of the most well-beloved NFT artist, people pleaser. She has Pleaser DAO, who owns some of her work and also just allocates funds to buy more, supporting you know, artists who are discovering this new canvas and new technology. And just to circle back a little on the discussion of technology and sociological and societal aspect of NFT. You know, artists who are really at the forefront of leading a new art kind of like paradigm has always embraced technology. So, you know, our ancestors, they of course painted on cave walls, but, you know, when we entered into Renaissance, it was because people discovered vantage points and you know, discovered new way to paint and new colors. Colors are not difficult, are not easy to get. The blue color that you know, people used to paint Virgin Mary with has to be harvested from Afghanistan using lapis lazuli, and it wasn't until 17th century that we discovered a much cheaper way to produce the blue color, so that can be democratized, and you know, the lily in the pond can be painted with a vivid kind of blue. So I think, you know, technology and societal reasons are, you know, some of the driving force behind the NFT boom, and so well DAO to really decentralize decision-making and governance to allow more people to have access to something that is previously excluded from them.
Sky, do you have a take on DAOs?
Yes.
Do you believe in their utopian possibilities for truly decentralized decision-making?
Well, I'm not an absolutist, so I never really see things this way. You know, I just believe in sort of cycles and new cycles that just goes along with, you know, with what we have. Like, to make a brief example, like e-commerce, you know, it's not that like all the physical shops were shut. Simply, you know, it's something that it's really evolving, and, you know, it's just creating new ways of approaching the market. And so I think what DAOs is doing is really interesting, because it is also challenging the structure of how society is built today. So on that sense, even from an artistic sense, I really feel it like a very interesting topic. I think it's gonna be like, I think one of the top trends, I think in like 2-3 years, I think like people like even realize yet, you know, and like people starting to realize about NFTs, you know, I think DAO is gonna be, you know, just right after it. And I think like probably the best use case at the moment, and probably the first one that will be, but maybe you guys can tell me better, is gonna be on a business level, you know, because that's really like the way that investing, in my opinion, is evolving. Like investing is always be seen as a vertical concept, as something, you know, really hard to access. I think what this revolution is doing is like bringing the concept of investment in an horizontal level. So yeah, I mean, all this is super exciting to me.
Misha, I can see you nodding along there. Do you agree?
I would agree. The DAO, it definitely goes through the evolution. Like, I don't have any illusions about DAO, and I know for a fact that DAO is not going to be applicable everywhere in every single aspect of our life today, but it definitely in the next just few months, we will see more and more use cases where DAO going to be the crucial and main component of the system, and actually will have a big impact on society, even though like DAO is driven by society. So it's kind of going in back as a boomerang, and this is what actually makes people excited. In the simple terms, what is DAO? It's decision making driven by society, and with the records on the blockchain. So whatever we will decide to make as a decision, this decision will be recorded and will stay there. And the use cases for this just technology and this concept technically endless. So yes, we will need to get to different maturity level to accept it. Okay, like on one of the conferences, I was asked a really interesting question. Misha, would you on board on the plane that will be operated by DAO system and not by the real pilots?
Good question.
Right? And my response was no. And now I would say probably yes, because now looking back and analyzing actually the majority of the crisis of the planes, like more than about 80% was done because of the human error, and DAO eliminates it. So it's definitely going through the evolution, and we can talk about this for like really hours, and it's going there, and it will be more and more. Like I would probably declare that there's no way back anymore. Like we already passed the return point, and now it's just going to be just more and more advanced, and more use cases will be there. Okay, and I know, for example, government of British Columbia in Canada leveraging heavily DAO and does a lot of experiments on that, on the DAO technology to bring it to the masses and start using on the government level. So it's there.
Yeah. Well, to bring it back from the point of no return, if we can bring it back to NFTs and the market, and Misha, I wanted to come back to you actually just to ask you a bit. I mean, there's been a lot of speculation in the market, and people will freely talk about that. And in fact, it has created an NFT market to some extent. I mean, do you think speculation is a bad thing?
Right now, yes. Unfortunately, yes. But again, it's all coming like through the evolution life cycles, right? And the main purpose on the NFT, and this is what will stay, like because it has no other chance to succeed. The main purpose is actually the proof that this particular piece of art is unique and authentic. It's not about his financial value at the current moment. It's not about the value of Ethereum at this moment where I traded. Like back in the days, a lot of traders in the world were trading on Forex, right? When we get to the particular point that it was not really lucrative anymore to amateur traders to trade on Forex, they started to look where to trade, right? So, and they moved to the different assets that they wanted to trade. At some point, we saw and we see still that a lot of trades happening on the blockchain side, specifically with NFTs. However, it's not the main point to create NFT just to monetize on it, right? It's more about how I prove that this point is actually unique, and this is like the real original of the point, right? This is the main thing. And if we will talk about society, society in masses wants to really be sure, and it's going back to what society wants and what we as humans want to have. We always want to brag about things directly or indirectly, consciously or subconsciously, about something that we have and we own, and how we prove it. NFT allows us to prove that what we own, this is actually unique.
Sure.
And financial implications is the second part.
But to drill down on the financial implications, I mean, there are huge price divides when it comes to NFTs. I mean, as we know, some sell for many millions. I mean, we're almost at the anniversary of the, what was it, 69 million Beeple sale, $69 million, $67 million Beeple sale a year ago now. Sky, can I ask you why you think, as an artist, why do you think some NFTs are more significant and valuable than others?
Well, this is a very good question. I think it can only be an answer that is built from, several variants. So I think art in this specific context, I think plays a minor role. But by saying that, what I want to say is that in this time, these pieces of art are so significant and iconic of a certain period of time that becomes incredibly valuable to the eyes of the people who understand the moment that we live in. So, I think in this moment, of course, there is, for example, I represent the part of NFT which is more close to fine art or 101s, this sort of approach. And I think this is a branch that is extremely growing. I think there is more and more education and culture that is coming in the space. And we are all building together, also this sort of real interest on the cultural aspect. But I think that what happened in this first part was that there has been a few iconic moments that the market has read as, in my opinion, they should have. Now, as this brought to a speculation, yes, it did. But at the end of the day, there are, I think, bad speculation in terms that are speculation that are on a certain already dead asset, but there are speculation that only happens in front of incredibly innovative technologies that in a way drives people crazy, and it's true, because I don't know if you ever try an NFT or to buy an NFT, but I can assure you it's a very interesting experience and you will probably enjoy that. So once the user starts to realize that, and there is this sort of new market, it's kind of normal this to happen. I mean, look at, for example, with the www. I mean, there was a huge bubble, it burst out, but then it's not that today we don't use internet, So at the end of the day, I think, having said so, it's sad to think that people are losing money, but I think that the people that are losing money in a way, they are so early in this game that they're probably also doing the mistake, which will be super valuable in the future, because we are still very early.
Do you think it would be fair to say there's been a sort of lack of critical reception for NFTs? I mean, coming from the traditional art world, I think there's sort of some disconnect between the aesthetic of some lack of understanding, perhaps, over the aesthetic of NFTs.
Yeah, but you know why, I think? Because in the beginning, this was imagine critic or this sort of very important figures in the art space have been very related to the concept of galleries, mostly in these past years. So because this movement sort of comes with this new idea of has to break this chain first to build a new one, I think, in an initial stage, this was kind of underrated, but I think we are definitely getting in a new time where this is gonna come back, but it's gonna come in a new way. Because I think that what really NFT made us understand is how the middleman was too overrated in our previous business models. So now NFT comes and say, hey guys, let's erase everything and now let's all build this new market together, which doesn't mean to exclude curators, which are, by the way, in my opinion, super important, or institutions that decide to invest to preserve culture. But I mean, this short circuit was needed.
So you're getting rid of the middlemen as in the commercial market middlemen, but you'd still want to hold on to the museums, the curators, the arbiters.
When I say middlemen, I can just do a very simple example. Banks, So it's you know, like we are on this, you know, like hyper-capitalistic cycle where, you know, like everything is based on debt from many, many years, and, you know, banks are kind of, like, I'm not an expert, so, but what the general people perception is that, you know, there is an enormous power, you know, on the hands of this kind of central banks institutions. So I think this is the people movement, you know, like this is, but not like people that are educated, you know, like we live in the digital era, you know, like informations are shared. Something had to happen anyway.
That's super interesting. Igneus, I don't know if you have a comment on the sort of the huge price divides when it comes to NFTs. Why are some more significant and valuable than others?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is due to speculation, but I don't think speculation necessarily need to be a bad word, because everything starts with speculation. With speculation, you have more people entering the space, and then you have participation, you have engagement, and then you have some of the most brilliant minds starting to innovate within the space, and then you have something that is better than where you started. So I think speculation is good in a sense, so long as it's not a terminal end, like you know, people only looking at NFT for speculation. A lot of people, as Sky said, they're just, you know, using it for bragging right. A lot of people who want to support culture, want to, you know, see some of those things happen. And perhaps in the previous times without NFT, everything is so prescriptive. So, you know, you have gatekeeper telling you what is aesthetically pleasing, what is permissible, what is supposed to be called art and what is not. You know, a lot of people have artistic leanings, but because of those prescriptive rules, they are talked out of it. But NFT, essentially, it's a descriptive way of capturing the zeitgeist. So, you know, of course, in the future, we hope that will be more of a standard, more of a curators really able to, once you kind of like get a certain volume without curators, you can't really go on anyway. But at the moment, I think, you know, just when people are starting to develop and to recognize this new way to, you know, express themselves, to find new way to communicate, to transact, to connect with the audience in a way that breaks down barriers. I think let's not rush into judgment what is art and what is not art, and what deserves the attention, what does not. Price action is just the purest way of, you know, capitalistic free market giving a value to anything. If the people, if the masses are willing to give something value and to deem it something worth owning, who are we to decide for them that it's not worthy?
Well, to break down the barriers, I would like to ask all of you if, and I don't collect NFTs and would quite like to actually get into the sphere. If I was to start collecting NFTs, where would I start? So Sky, if you want to, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, so I think first of all, I would start by studying a bit, because at the moment there are many informations available, and well, for example, when I started was really hard to kind of find information. You have to go on Reddit or, you know, like on...
You don't need university degree.
No, yeah, that's for sure.
Okay.
But, you know, just make your own opinion, because so many things are said around NFTs, and I think that, you know, some are good, some are bad. So I think that, like, to try to first make an opinion, I think that's super important. Having said so, another thing that people say is like, it's expensive because you have the gas fee and blah, blah, blah. But reality is that there are already many blockchains which are basically cost-free that are experimenting on NFTs. So for example, that could be a very good starting point, because you, at that point, you would really not even need a big investment or a more, you know, expensive investment just to buy some experience, basically. So I think that could be a good tip, you know, just, you know, consider that there are other blockchain on the top of Ethereum, which, by the way, at the moment is definitely the leader blockchain on the NFT segment. But many blockchains are building, and some are literally gas cost free. So that could be a starting point, in my opinion.
Good call. Misha, what would you advise?
I would definitely emphasize and really stand on this: invest in education first. Okay. And when I say invest in education, literally, it's, we don't need to spend years or even months on studying. the entry point, good entry point that will help to eliminate majority of scams and mistakes, it's probably no more than 1 week of studying. And we have enough information already on the internet, on YouTube, on blogging about the starting points, okay? So invest first there in this first step, and then invest in studying the market a little bit, not from technology perspective. It's not about this, it's literally about community. We always need to remember about community. I even will connect this, my answer to the previous question, right? Like why some NFTs, they're really growing and cost millions and some of them dying. It's actually the judgment of community. We need to remember like those NFTs that cost millions today, it's something that managed to build big communities, get exposure, and get actually judgment of community that yes, we're willing to pay $1.3 million for this piece of art. It's not about just one person that decides like, oh, I want to pay $10 for this, or I want to pay. It's not about this. It's about the community and speed of growth. Like blockchain and NFT having a huge speed of distribution of the information, which is crucial because now with the big communities and with the speed, everybody can become famous before they die. Like Da Vinci, his work get famous, unfortunately, when he passed away. Now blockchain helps us actually to get to the level that in a matter of sometimes hours, we get known. And if it's real art, and people not dumb, they understand that this is a real. They can appreciate the work, and their judgment immediately comes to the picture. So we don't need to wait until we die to become famous anymore, right? So education about like how speed works, education about how to get in touch with communities. What kind of communities? If it's a real community, or if it's a community that built by bots, and it's really fake community just to scam amateur people, or like just people that stepping in there. So education, I will go back, start with education a little bit.
Igneus, what would you say to someone starting out collecting NFTs? Where would you point them?
Well, since I'm here from Bybit, so I have to say a perfunctory, you have to start with the Bybit NFT marketplace. That is one of the best NFT marketplaces out there. But jokes aside, I think it's really important that we need to understand NFT isn't fundamentally different than owning any art or any collectibles. If this is a piece, like it's basically just moving that ownership onto blockchain. So if it is a piece of art that you do not connect with, that you would not buy as a print, then you shouldn't buy it as an NFT. I think that's a good rule of thumb. Another way of looking at it is like you really want to buy something that you feel a connection towards, or something that you really feel is relevant for the zeitgeist or for the people who you feel proud to be called to be a part of. So one of the interesting projects that I participated like in the auction of NFT auction of was from last week. We just saw this conceptual artist by the name of Shlomo. So in crypto terms, people always talk about when Lambo, meaning when the price of a Bitcoin will reach the price of Lamborghini. So he really wanted to kind of like express his Dadaist disgust toward crypto greed, the words from himself. So he drove a Lamborghini Huracan into an undisclosed location in the Nevada desert and blew it up. And then he picked up all the charred remains, 999 pieces of them, meticulously, exquisitely filmed them into 4K videos, and basically just rotating video of that charred piece. And then there are 999 NFTs that went on 888 of them went on sale in an auction last weekend, and it was hugely successful. It was participated by 1,800 buyers. It raised 800 ETH at the time, was more than $2 million, enough to buy 10 Lamborghinis, and created so much chatter, so much thinking in this space, just like what is art, what is like an expression, artistic expression, what is the right way going forward when it comes to NFTs. And you know, I was really proud to be a participant in that auction, and I'm very glad to get my hands on you know, a piece or two. So you know, I think in that sense, it's really just, you shouldn't be investing in something that you don't understand or you don't even appreciate. You should be looking at things that you really feel a personal connection to, and you feel that you would, basically NFT is about in-group belonging as well. You would be proudly displaying it, saying that, you know, I belong to that group of exclusive members who own a piece of that NFT.
Thank you, Igneus. I have one final question to put to all of you, which is sort of about the future. It's another crystal ball moment, I'm afraid. I'm going to ask you, how you see the NFT world developing. One thing I wanted to flag is that it's not particularly diverse at the moment. I think women only account for 5 to 15% of the global NFT markets, and I mean female identifying artists. Do you see that changing, for instance, in the future? Are we looking to diversify? What do you see as the future for NFTs?
It definitely will be there. We will see huge change and shift who consumes and used NFTs, even where they get used. Okay, so definitely it will help to society to change even the rules of society and even perception. What particular activities actually addressed by particular groups of people, right? So definitely it will change the way we operate and live. Like definitely I stand on that big time. Things that we work on behind the scenes that we are not disclosing right now, actually, and we're getting a lot of interest, like those parties that get involved on the technology, how it actually will address a lot of concerns in this domain. So it's there, it's coming, and I know we are not the only entity that works on that, and a lot of organizations around the world trying to do this and succeeding. So it's definitely will be a new future really soon that we will see.
I'll be right behind you on that DAO operated plane. Sky, what do you see the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, has really started as a sort of a niche, so I think the more we will go horizontal, I mean, is inevitable because we have amazing women artists, so I think the more people we realize this as an important tool, I think that the spread through society will just be, like an horizontal level, like of adoption somehow, so. Yeah, I'm not worried about that. I think it should be more, but I think we will get there soon.
Optimistic. Igneus, what do you think is the future?
Yeah, I think NFT presents this amazing ability and amazing opportunity for us to really center, some of those artists who have been overlooked by the traditional gatekeepers. And I think just kind of like talking about that dream of inclusion is not enough. All of us who want to see that change, we need to be instigating, we need to be a catalyst in that change as well. And when we choose to purchase an NFT and when we choose to purchase a piece of art, we should be consciously also thinking, who are the artists that we want to support, and what are some of the things some of the changes, some of the aspects that we want to see more in the world. So, the work is not going to get done by itself, but a new technology always changes the game in the sense that the entrenched class, the people benefiting from the existing paradigm, they will always continue to prolong the current situation, whereas you have a disruptive technology, you have a new paradigm. It always allows more inclusivity, allows some of those people who previously didn't have power or didn't have purchase now reaching a new audience and now having new opportunities. So I guess I'm cautiously optimistic as both of my fellow panelists, but I would urge everyone to not only kind of like pay lip service to inclusion, but also put your money or your crypto where your mouth is, and actively supporting those artists that we want to see more of.
Cautiously optimistic, I like that. We started a bit late, but we have got a few minutes for some Q&A, some Q&As now. Has anyone got any burning questions? This lady?
Yeah, can you just wait for the mic, please?
Hi, I have a few questions for, it's actually one question for all of you, because you're an artist and you all believe in how NFTs have revolutionized the sense of ownership in the digital space. I want to bring a situation to your attention and I want to know what you think. When I applied to Art Dubai, my gallery minted on my behalf. So my sense of ownership and human agency in the digital space was diluted because I'm no longer the owner of my artwork and I wasn't made aware of this. So how can galleries assist NFT artists excel and prosper in the digital space without diluting their sense of ownership? How can we participate in art fairs as such with galleries, working with galleries, without artists being taken away from the equation? Because it seems so fuzzy to me.
Yeah, that's actually,
Please.
so that's a very good question. And I think the short answer is that you ideally you had the chance to create this NFT yourself, okay? Now, the fact that your gallery is kind of dealing with an extremely new thing, with a sort of a more traditional, way, but that doesn't prevent you from taking the action of your direct...
I need to say, I'm fully aware of NFTs and how they work, but the only way to participate in Art Dubai was to be represented by a gallery.
Okay,
so I was not allowed to participate as a solo artist.
That's a great point, and I think that's, coming back to what I was saying before, is like, we are here to kind of change this, and I think that the new players, the new galleries are really aware of this, we don't have, you have to understand that the present is not what the future, and so these kind of, commercial entities, they come from a commercial history. It's not easy. That's also the reason why, we didn't kind of listen too much yet of a gallery that is like really doing well in the NFT space. Why? Because to change a structure that comes from hundreds of years of history is really hard. So I think that galleries will evolve for sure. So who was the people who could that did well from the traditional world was auction houses. Why? Because they were more free in a way to act on a commercial level. So I think, I'm sorry for your experience and I totally get your frustration, but I think if you're gonna start to kind of, be more aware and also chatting with other artists.
The art fair is aware.
Yeah, okay, so
Okay,
maybe someone else can reply.
Thank you for your question.
Hi, Wadi here, aspiring NFT participator, and I have a simple question. We know the main blockchains, and they have their cryptocurrencies, which is Ethereum and others. And week to week, month to month, we hear about new up-and-coming updates to the existing blockchains, version 1, version 2, which is and there's a lot of focus on filling or addressing gaps that they have, or even lowering the cost of minting them and the gas fees. And in the space of blockchains, there's a lot of new players that we hear about. And there's so many forums, we hear about them coming out week after week, month after month. So I want to ask you guys, these emerging blockchains and cryptocurrencies that are promising to fix what Ethereum and others cannot do or are too expensive, is there substance to what they're saying, or is it hype? Because all of us, we want to know, should we pay attention to these new cryptocurrencies, these new blockchains that promise to fix what Ethereum and others don't have? Is there substance there, or is it hype and they're trying to take that, to exploit the situation? Thank you.
I probably will answer to this, and I hope I will get to back to my car and I'm not going to be killed. And the way I will answer, unfortunately, and again, I'm 10 years in this domain. My ratio is about 90% of all these statements, it's fake, up until now, okay? So whenever I hear something similar as a question, I'm trying to be a dinosaur, and I suggest to people be a dinosaur, just wait. Wait a little bit, Okay, don't get me wrong. There is a lot of amazing tech coming to the market, but there is a huge gap between the promise and the ability to deliver. There's a lot of people that have ability to create something, but they have no ability to really take it to the masses and to scale the business, right? So, and unfortunately, a lot of technology projects failed because of this, not because their technology was bad. So going back to this question, a lot of promises, and when we really, like as a technical experts looking on this, we immediately say like, it's just a scam. They're just trying to ride on the wave of hype, and it's hype, and they're just trying to scam people. And my suggestion, wait. Wait or go with something that already has a social proof, at least a social proof, real social proof, not about like, we got 5,000 people voted for us, and that. No, it's not. Sometimes we even read, like as a technical people, we read white papers of those blockchains. Some of them, they were so fast to get to the market that they made a mistake when they did a copy-paste from another white paper. And there is some references to the original blockchain from where they're stealing the white paper, right? So.
Wait, you say. We have 1 minute left. One
last question.
Yes, I think. Yeah, please.
Anybody? Is there anyone on that side of the room? Because we don't want to be discriminatory.
Absolutely true.
Anyone? A gentleman over there. Okay.
Thank you.
If you could stand up, please, while you ask the question, so you can be on the...
Thank you. I just have one question regarding inclusivity, and I think one of the things which has come up several times is the gender bias that exists and there might have been. I came a bit late, so that might be already addressed. But so when you look at the crypto itself, you have twice as many men investing in crypto as females, and the same thing we're now starting to see in the NFT world as well, which again has an impact on the artist. The female artist that's represented is much lower than the male, and particularly in terms of success and value, etc. I just want to sort of the roadmap that the panel thinks, how do we readdress this? Because otherwise we fall into exactly the same problem as we have in the art market right now, is that there's a very, very low representation of female in the marketplace. I'm talking not so much necessarily in the institutional space and the art fair, we see many female artists, but still from the market, which is obviously still a very major part of the NFT at the moment. So how do we rectify this?
I mean, I would just say that the Unicorn DAO, which has just been launched this week, I think, which is specifically investing in female and LGBTQ+ artists. So there are DAOs that are springing up who specifically raise funds to buy NFTs by female artists. But yes, I think it's a really great question. Do we introduce quotas? How do we tackle that?
First of all, I wouldn't call it even a challenge of the NFT and blockchain or technology. Okay. It's right now what we see is a reflection of our societies. I will ask you one question, really simple. Does your wife control your bank account, or you control it? So who has access to the funds that needs to be spent or invested on particular project? So what we see right now is just a reflection of the current society, a reflection on the technology. So this is kind of outcome of where we live right now. And the moment when society gets adjusted, we will see immediately the adjustments also on the technology side.
So you think crypto investors, it needs to change from the top, the people who hold the purse strings and the people who sit on the executive boards.
Yeah.
Less hopeful now than I was 5 minutes ago. Does anyone
No,
know?
it's okay. I mean,
I
it's a huge topic, of course. I think that there should be a panel just for this topic. It's such a delicate thing. I think it goes also to, as I said, I really believe genuinely, this was a very niche of a bit geeky, so it was some, interested boys somehow, we like toys. So, I mean, this is very stereotypical. That's why I don't like categories. I mean, and I think this question is somehow stereotypical, but that's my point, but I really see this because if we keep on, I mean, it is important, but as someone said very well before, it's new technology generally, they bring also inclusivity on a new level. So, I mean, we are at the very beginning of this and we have to all build it together, but for sure, there is awareness. Like, I'm an NFT artist, we speak about that in the community. You know, like, there are people who raise these issues. There will probably be DAOs who can deliver on that. Like, I mean, like, we have to build it all together, I guess.
I think that's a great place to end it. Thank you, everyone. Just to let you know, there's a 20-minute break before the next talk, which begins at 5. But just leaves me to thank my panelists, Misha, Sky, and Igneus in Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.